Hello and welcome. It is 10 o'clock. It is the 22nd day of June 2021. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM, and support me, Coke, because I need a sponsor and I will sell out. Support me, TSR, because I'm going to be talking about you. Content warning, I am going to be addressing the current announcement of a new company calling itself TSR, and already the whirlwind of stuff regarding it, even though it's not even a week old, including some of my personal insight. I may say some things that are less than flattering about TSR and Wizards of the Coast, so if that's something that's going to upset you, please stop watching now. I'll give you a minute. Okay, so as we know, Ernest Gary Gygax, James Ward, Larry Elmo, you know what? I'm going to call him Larry Elmo because it's funny. Larry Elmer, and a couple other individuals have filed for the trademark TSR.Games, and they have announced that they are going to be doing stuff under the TSR logo. The first product coming out is something called the Giant Lands. They have made some mentions to cosplay and a video game and a theme park, and of course the hobby shop dungeon stuff that has already been produced or not produced, that basically the Ernest Gary Gygax's stuff that he's already made and stuff like that. The company's a week old, 2 weeks old, I don't know, and there's a whole bunch of stuff already being associated with it. We know that there's kickstarting, crowdfunding, trying to get a Gary Gygax Dungeons and Dragons museum open in Lake Geneva. We know that there has been in existence for a very long time a place called the Hobby Shop Dungeon, where Ernest Gary Gygax has pretty much run his Hobby Shop Dungeon memorial tomb campaign, his homage to his father's multiple creations. There has been multiple things called GaryCon. All this has led to the announcement of TSR. Since then, there has been a whirlwind of speculation, comments, both positive, negative, some hopeful, some some not so hopeful, some very derogatory, some very flattering, and a lot of expectation. Now, recently I talked about the Captain Marvel thing. And before going any further, we do know that there is some legal issues regarding the name TSR between Ernest Gary Gygax and Gail Gygax, Gary Gygax's wife. Gail Gygax has a production company called TSR that makes Top Secret, or at least is holding on to the name Top Secret, because as long as they claim Top Secret is still in print, they can hold on to the product and they can use the name TSR. So this new company is called TSR.Games. And like I said, there's positive stuff, there's negative stuff. There is a whirlwind of speculation and a whirlwind of expectation. And really, as long as they keep using the name TSR.Games, that expectation spotlight is going to be on them. And they can pretty much make whatever they want. And just as long as it says TSR on it, there's going to be an audience because of the nostalgia and because of all the hope that this means something. And that, my friends, is both the benefit and the problem of this. Are they just using the name TSR so they can use the name TSR, Captain Marvel? As long as they keep using the name TSR, they get to use the name TSR. And as long as something is in print with the name TSR on it, they can keep using the name TSR.Games and nobody else can use it. Captain Marvel. So you got somewhere in the back of your mind, no matter what they do going forward, you got to wonder, is part of the reason that they called it TSR.Games is so they could use the name TSR.Games because they know there is a certain amount of nostalgia and expectation and hope associated with the name TSR.Games. And I'm using this because this is one of the most iconic images in the history of the game. You know, no matter what you feel about each issue and each iteration of D&D, we all love this picture. Anybody who doesn't love this picture, you know, is lying. You love this picture. It's a great picture. It just captures everything that Dungeons and Dragons means. So there is an expectation, which is a blessing because that's good business. If people expect the product to be worthy of the name, they will at least show interest. They will at least talk about it. They will at least make an initial financial investment because of the power of nostalgia and the expectation that this means something. The name TSR represents something in the collective unconscious of the 48 years of our hobby. Doesn't matter what they do, that expectation is there. And if they have any sense whatsoever, of course they're going to milk it because it's already built in. And that's the benefit of using that name, that expectation. The downside is that expectation because no matter what I say going forward and no matter what comes out of this, there's already expectation that this means something. And by using the name TSR, they have to be beholden to a certain level of, I don't know, quality, content, responsibility to the IP. That's a very negative expectation because people are already setting a benchmark of what they expect, and so far they haven't really done anything other than announce the giant lands and that they're thinking about stuff. But that name has power. That name has expectation. And that expectation, as we know in our hobby, is a very dangerous thing and can be a very negative thing. Because it's not even been 5 days and there's already a lot of negative gobbledygook and a lot of, things people are saying. And we will go into that, I'm sure, going further, because far be it from me to avoid anything confrontation. Because let's face it, kids, confrontation sells. All I got to do is mention the name Critical Role and this will get 1,000, likes and subs and views and thumbs downs and whatever. That expectation is there. And that because of that expectation is there, we have positive stuff coming out of this and negative stuff coming out of this. And some of the negative stuff is really negative. Now, again, that's probably a separate vlog. We could just talk about the stuff people saying about it already. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they actually do anything going forward. That name means something. And they chose that name for a reason. Now, that reason could just be, like I said, the Captain Marvel thing. We're using that name so we can use that name. And as long as we produce something with that name on it, we get to keep using that name. That could be the only reason why they're using that name. Just to keep it in, quote unquote, the family. But basically, somebody knows. Without a doubt, I am 90% sure somebody associated with this project knows that there is a built-in expectation associated with that name, both positive and negative. And of course, on some level, they are going to milk that expectation because it would be stupid not to. That nostalgia flag, that TSR means something, is, you got to milk the AP for as long as they can. It doesn't matter if they do anything or not, because already people are speculating, does this mean we're going to see a bunch of old stuff? Are they going to get the rights to the old OPs? Are they going to re-release Keeping the Borderlands and, Pharaoh and every, first, second, and, everything that TSR produced? for Dungeons and Dragons and other games like Star Frontiers, Boot Hill, the original and best Marvel, and I'm sure there's other games that I can't think of. There are plus a bunch of board games that TSR did. So there's already that speculation going. Is what does this mean for the OSR? What does this mean for Wizards of the Coast? What does this mean for Dungeons and Dragons, especially with the anniversary coming up? Is this going to be the flag that the OSR needs to finally, unite us against the evil empire of Wizards of the Coast? Content warning. If we're the rebellion and Wizards of the Coast is the Empire, we just need that, we need our Luke Skywalker, our Princess Leia to unite us in one common front and finally get the cash cow behind the OSR so that we're actually, relevant. Is this going to be it? That's that expectation. The expectation for the IP, of course, is huge. There are things associated with the name TSR that people have a very fond memory of that Wizards of the Coast hasn't really done anything with, but they are holding on to. So will they sell that IP back to TSR? What IPs does TSR still have the rights to? And chances are probably none of them. If you're expecting a re-release of Pharaoh or some other classic TSR D&D product, I would say that considering Goodman Games has already done a really great job with releasing IP. I mean, their take on Expedition is great. Their take on Keep is great. Their take on Island of the Dread is great. Their take on... they even did Amberville, and that's like one of the most obscure D&D modules there is, and their take on Amberville is great. So Goodman Games has obviously got some way to be producing that stuff. Does that mean TSR can do the same thing with the stuff? Because nobody's done anything with Pharaoh or any of the Greyhawk modules. Who holds the IP to Greyhawk? Does Wizards of the Coast still hold it? Does Gale hold it? Does Luke hold it? Does Ernie hold it? Does the guy who did the Castle of Zaggy hold it? Does Castle and Crusades hold it? Probably Wizards of the Coast holds it, but who knows? But there's an expectation, because I've already seen posts that they'll release the classic IPs. Will they? Probably not. Do they have to? Absolutely not. The only thing they've announced is Giant Lands. And of course, we know that for the past several years, Ernest Gary Gygax has been trying to get his hobby shop dungeon, Memorial Tomb, out. That thing's been kickstarted, crowdfunded, in production for at least 10 years. And content warning, I'm sorry, I have yet to see shit come out of that. And I looked at it. I had a playtest copy. I don't know how I got it, but somehow through the machinations that is the OGGM, I actually had a PDF in Memorial Tomb. And yeah, it was awful. It was just... But Ernest Gary Gygax has been milking that and churning that and constantly, I'm still playtesting it. I'm still running it at Gygax Con. And I've got, the hobby shop dungeon and blah, 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 blah. That's going to probably be their main thing. Now, add to the one of the very first announcements they made, besides the theme park cosplay thing, was a lot of their product is going to be 5e compatible because they want to target a younger audience. Now, as we know, Wizards of the Coast claims under their demographics that, 75% of their audience are people under the age of 25. 87% of that audience is males, 17% being female. Of course, I've already said I don't believe that. I'm way sure there are more females playing than 17% of the entire population. So they've already said we're going after the 5e market. And that's already pissed people off. Because expectation, you were going to support us. You were going to support OSR. This was going to be classic D20 fantasy Dungeons and Dragons. But by tagging on the coattails of 5e, you're abandoning us. You're letting us down. We expected you to be TSR. Well, TSR can't do Dungeons and Dragons product unless they do it under 5th edition because the name Dungeons and Dragons is owned by Wizards of the Coast. I'm sorry, it is. And Wizards of the Coast can call whatever they want Dungeons and Dragons because they have 100% control over that name. So unless they release stuff with the 5th edition tag on it and for the 5th edition audience, they can't release Dungeons and Dragons stuff. They can release stuff for the OSR. They can release stuff under the Giant Lands system, which I've been told is a really awful D100 system. Content warning. Yes, I've been told that the Giant Lands system is actually awful. The Giant Lands system is actually basically a Kickstarter that failed, so now they're trying to sell it. James Ward, apparently, even though he has his name attached to it, wants very little to do with it. Again, this is all just things that are already popping up in the Twitterverse and the Discords and the whatever. Like I said at the very beginning, there is this whirlwind of both positive and negative associated with TSR, which comes back all the way to the beginning of this rant. 16 minutes. I think we've gone long enough. And of course, going forward, it doesn't matter what, if anything, they do, because their product doesn't matter. The name matters, and the fact that there is already expectation attached to that name is what matters. They could make Critical Role 5e. Our target audience is cosplaying under 25, green-haired, manic, the people I constantly complain about and get shit on for, but we're TSR. But we need to target that audience because that's our audience. That's the people who are buying games. Nobody over 25 is buying games. Yes, we are. We're just not buying D&D. We're buying OSR. We're buying other stuff. We want you, TSR, to acknowledge that the over 25 OSR crowd wants to give money to a company that's going to make classic D20 fantasy, because I can't call it Dungeons and Dragons, classic D20 fantasy OSR. We want a consistent OSR game because there's over 1,000 OSR titles, and most of those are just retro clones of basic, advanced, intermediate, first edition, and second edition. That's a lot of versions of the exact same game. And most of them are exactly the same, other than different art and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 different things. But a lot of those OSR retro clones are pretty much the exact same game. Now, I don't know. That's a completely separate topic as to why the fuck there's so many. So we want this to be our beacon, our flag. We want, I guess, a consistent, comprehensive, universal Dungeons and Dragons to be the competition for Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons. We want the TSR role-playing game. That's the expectation, and that's the problem and the benefit. They don't, like I said, they don't have to do jack. All they have to do is sell the name. TSR the breakfast cereal. TSR the flamethrower. The kids love this one. But that expectation is also already coming with a whirlwind of negativity. And I know I'm going to talk about that because it's a topic worth talking about. I'm going to address the issues that Aaron the Pandactic brought up. I'm going to address the issues that I'm already seeing on my vlog and in my Discord about the TSR. I'm going to address the issues people are having with the people associated with it. I have my issues just because of my familiarity with Ernie Gary Gygax and the Hobby Shop Dungeon and Memorial Tomb. Sorry if you're insulted, but yeah, face it. He hasn't done shit with that. you know. So yeah, it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, it's a thing. And it's going to change the paradigm. What is this going to mean a year from now for Wizards of the Coast? I don't know. Maybe nothing. What is this going to mean with the 50th anniversary coming up? It could mean a lot, depending upon what Wizards of the Coast is doing with the 50th anniversary, what Critical Role is doing with the 50th anniversary, and what these guys' plans are for the future of the TSR IP. What do you think? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Is this just a thing? Are they going to make some really great product? Are they going to make crap product? Are they going to, make TSR their breakfast cereal and just milk it for as long as they can and get that sweet, sweet, sweet 5th edition money and piss off the OSR? Or are they going to be the beacon of hope for the OSR that name means? Really, that name doesn't mean anything. In closing, when you think about it, TSR was a badly run company that was always one day ahead from going bankrupt. A lot of their products sucked, but we have this nostalgic memory of how great Gygaxian stuff was. Gygaxian wasn't that great of a writer, and most of the stuff he didn't write. Other people did. But we have this memory. And so we want that name to mean something. We don't remember how crappy it was. We don't remember how shitty it was. We don't remember some of the scummy stuff they did. We don't remember the fact that they were a horribly run company that was barely able to keep a roof over their head and gladly sold out the second they could, kicked Gary Gygax to the curb the second they could, and generally was just, a free-for-all. But we have that memory, and we have that nostalgia, and we have that name, and now that name is back. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What do you think? Comment down below. Let me know. I'm sure this is not going to stop now. I have been your Grumpy Guide to all things gaming. If you appreciate this content and want to hear more, let me know. If you never want to hear me talk about TSR ever again, comment down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Help me hit 500 subs by August 4th, and we'll do something crazy. Till then, like, share, subscribe, support. Have a great day. Stay warm, stay dry, stay hydrated, and stay the fuck off my lawn. I will talk to you later, Steve.